Welcome to Afya.6, the place where you learn all that which would help you live a healthy lifestyle. I'm your host, Gladys Ombongi, and with me is Dr. Eddie Ramirez. Dr. Eddie Ramirez is not a guest that we are not familiar with, but I'd like to introduce him. He is an author, a researcher, lifestyle medicine doctor. And today we are going to talk about spices and health. But I have a live audience also to help us unpack this story. Karibuni sana. We want to find out, Doctor, why spices, but specifically, what really constitutes a healthy diet?
That's right. Yeah, so, Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago, said something very wise. He says, let food be thy medicine,
yes.
and medicine be thy food. If we were to take to heart this principle, we could avoid many of the common problems that we see in our midst. And the reality is that many of the problems that we see in the clinical practice are directly related to this. And to me, this is very interesting. For example, patients with depression, when they come to see me, and I start asking them, what do you eat and so forth, many of them tell me, doctor, you're the first one that is asking me what I eat.
Yes.
Of course it makes sense, you just think about it. What I eat becomes the chemicals I'm going to have in my brain. Therefore, if my diet is wrong, my chemicals in my brain are going to be wrong, and that's going to be manifested with mental health problems and so forth.
So now, does my diet need to be bland and boring? You know, the way we just put a little things, onion, tomato, that's what we do a lot here, and that's it.
Some people think that if it tastes bad, it must be very healthy. That's a wrong idea, okay? A good meal needs to taste good. And this is an important principle. I mean, think about it, if it doesn't taste good, do you want to keep eating that long term?
No.
No, isn't it? Therefore, we need to be careful that we need to make sure that our food tastes good. And basically, our food needs to be centered in what is called a plant-based diet. Plant needs to be the majority of the food we eat. There's so many spices that, we can see here in Kenya. And our food needs to be, consistent of, fruits, all the different shades and colors. Buy the ones that is on season, not the one that is expensive. Vegetables, all the different colors of vegetables. There's vegetables and fruits that are black, some are purple, some are blue, some are red, some are orange, some are yellow, some are white. Each shade has different properties. So make sure that you rotate those different colors. Sometimes we're used to this, only this, and that's not good. Try to have that variety. Together with legumes, the legumes are those beans and those chickpeas and those lentils. They're loaded with protein. Together with whole cereals and spices, so that you can make all this combination taste good.
I see these spices very common especially in very, very hot areas. Like in Zanzibar, even here in Kenya, we do have spices. Why is it so that people who live in hot areas seem to enjoy spices?
It's very interesting pattern that you find worldwide. I mean, I used to live in Norway, and I can assure you, not too many spices there. But you go to places like India, that are warm,
hot,
lots of spices. You go to places like Mexico, lots of spices are used there. You come to many places in Africa, especially your neighbors here, the Ethiopians,
Yes.
they use a lot of spices. Why so much spices in places that are hot? Well, there was an interesting study that came out recently, and it was proposing that when you analyze spices, spices have an antibacterial effect. So God, in His wisdom, communicated somehow this information, and those places that are hot, bacteria like to grow in places that are warm. You know, whenever they take a sample of you to grow bacteria, we put that in a place that is warm because we know that encourages the growth of the bacteria. The same way, when you're cooking your food and you leave it there, the bacteria growth can increase very fast if you're in a warm place. But spices have a beneficial effect at decreasing the bacterial growth, and that actually is a big blessing because then you're able to, you know, hold on the food a little bit longer and so forth. And one of the blessings of the Europeans, I know there's some issues against it, but one of the blessings was that the Europeans started to connect many of the continents. So spices that were only available in India suddenly became available in Africa. Very soon they arrived to Europe, and very soon they arrived to the Americas, and then very soon they arrived to Asia. And that created this exchange which actually improved the foods literally worldwide. In fact, I remember when I visited Zanzibar the last time, we did a very interesting tour. They had their spice tour because, you know, Zanzibar was a hub, important hub of trade and commerce, and all those spices would pass through there. So many of those spices became part of the culture. And that's where I met actually many of those spices in the real life, you know. For example, I have never seen turmeric in its natural plant state. I saw plants such as cinnamon and different spices. They have them all there, you know, because that type of weather is ideal for the growth of many of these spices. That's also something interesting, that's why spices tend to grow more in the tropical areas, you know, and that's why some of them are expensive because they cannot grow in the cold parts.
And I'm just thinking, there's that antibacterial effect that you've spoken about. But would one overdo spices? Would you have excess in your food? Is it harmful?
That's a very good question. And you know, there's very good studies coming out of India and of Mexico. Mexico also, they like very spicy food. And you actually find a U curve is called. In other words, many of these spices, as we will be seeing soon, have anti-inflammatory effects. They help decrease inflammation. So if you use the spice just to give flavor and color, that's good. But when the spice started to, hurt you, that creates irritation, which induces inflammation, and you find that U curve. So spices decrease cancer, but too much actually increase cancer, such as esophageal cancer, such as stomachal cancer. So if it's spicy, then it's not good for you. Your body is telling you this is not good. And some people say, well, but doctor, how much spiciness, I know that this is healthy or unhealthy. Well, I tell them, use the principle of the child. If you were to use this spice and food and give it to a child, is it going to make him cry? Make him cry, that's too spicy. You shouldn't be eating that.
Oh, thank you, doctor. You have told us about spices that are not very good. If we overdo them, they might actually be a problem. And maybe I even just want to add that exactly what do we mean by spices? There are different kinds of herbs, and sometimes are roots, sometimes we use the leaves. Maybe to just clarify for somebody at home who is thinking, what is it? It's not necessarily the ones we buy mixed up in the store. It's that which that you pick up yourself and make.
That's right.
So tell us about the mechanism.
For example, we're talking about parsley, it's a spice, garlic was considered a spice. You can use it dry, you can use it, the leaves, you can use the roots and so forth. So, some of the spices that have, commonly available in our meats, include things like basil, like lemongrass, cilantro,
We call
ginger.
it dania or coriander here.
Okay,
Yes,
oregano, dill, garlic. So make sure that you become wise. You know how you use this spice. You may be able to find a special flavor and a special combination that actually improves the quality of your dishes. So yes, you know that's what we mean by spices. You know, it's a wide door of different types of herbs. Spices only comes from herbs that add, you know, some property to your dish and so forth.
So what mechanism do these spices have that helps prevent disease?
One of them is helping us deal with inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of most diseases, from cancer to Alzheimer's to heart disease, to premature aging. These things have the origin is at something that is called inflammation. And in our body, we have a main switch. That main switch is called the NF kappa beta. Think about, you know, in your home, that switch, and when you turn on, all the lights go on your home. Okay, that's the way that inflammation affects the body. When that NF kappa beta is on, then there's inflammation in the body. So many spices have that property. They actually shut down that NF kappa beta. Think about, you know, the breaker that you have in your home. If you turn off that, man, the whole light goes off. Okay, the same way, inflammation is all over the body. Well, by stopping that breaker, inflammation goes down.
So it is a circuit breaker.
That's right.
That's very common in our electricity wiring systems here. So the spices do that.
Spices do that. They stop the circuit breaker.
Give us some examples of some of the benefits of spices. I'm thinking about ginger, for example.
That's right.
What are the benefits?
Ginger, you know, it's a spice that is actually, you know, worldwide. And there is something you can see on the screen. There's something, the active ingredient that has the most benefit of ginger, that is called the zerubone. And that one targets exactly that NF kappa beta that we were talking about. And we know in published papers that that has an effect on the cancer cells, makes the cancer cells commit suicide, something that we call apoptosis. You think that's good? Yes, isn't it? That's fantastic. And also, second thing that has been published regarding ginger is helps with the metastasis, so that the cancer doesn't spread. So yeah, another one of the good ideas why we should be using, you know, ginger on a regular basis.
Wow. Then there are other spices like the black cumin.
That's right.
We have the light one, the light brown one.
Yes.
But I'm sure in some stores you may find the black cumin
black
here
one.
in Kenya. So what are the benefits?
Yeah, so you can see there on the screen, the active substance of the black cumin is the thymokinum. And this one has the protective ability of stopping the tumor growth. As I mentioned to you, you know, cancer starts, it's a long process, you know, and when the cancer is small, that's the best time to stop the cancer. So this active ingredient of the black cumin actually stops that cancer from multiplying and continuing to grow. And then the immune system comes, and then the cancer is over. It's interesting fact, every single one of us generates cancer cells every day. But thank God we have the immune system that helps identify and destroy that. The problem is that certain behaviors that we do, such as meat eating, for example, you encourage the growth of even more cancer cells. And then we get in trouble because our ability to have that balance, we start overcoming it. And now you have a lot of growth of cancer, and now the immune system cannot catch up, and then we're in big trouble. So don't think about, oh, I'm just going to eat black cumin and that's going to solve the problem. No, you know, we need to deal it with both ways. I decrease things that increase cancer growth, and at the same time I add my spices, my sleep, and all these things, and then together that's when we get that protective effect.
So it's both lifestyle and also what I eat.
That's right.
Choices, as we keep saying it all the time. There's also this common spice called fenugreek.
That's right.
Mothers like to use it. I don't know, what are some of the benefits of fenugreek?
Yes, fenugreek, has this special smell.
Yes.
You smell that, you can quickly tell this is fenugreek. You can see it in the screen. And one of the benefits of it has to do with cancer of the bones. It actually, helps in the inhibition of that, cancer of the bone. It actually stops the invasion because cancer of the bone sometimes, tends to go some other places, and the proliferation. So yeah, another one important, especially children, many times they fall and things like this. That can start one of these cancers. So yeah, something wise for the mothers to use.
I would like to talk about one other spice, fennel seeds. We chew it. I chew it because I like the flavor of the mouth. What are the other benefits of fennel?
Yeah, we can see in the screen the active ingredient is something that is called the anethole. And this one is very anti-inflammatory. So yeah, very wise idea to do that. It actually helps you with your teeth, especially if you have gingivitis and this type of things. As you chew that spice and that juice gets there, it has that anti-inflammatory effect. But not only at the level of your gums, but also in general, it is an anti-inflammatory spice. And it also has been published how it creates apoptosis among the bad cells in your body. So definitely a good spice to use.
A good spice to have. So don't go away. We are continuing with this. We want to take a short break. If there are spices you use and you don't know the need, how to do them, how to prepare, write to us, talk to us, and we will actually help you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Before we went on a break, we were talking about spices, fennel. Now we want to talk about another spice. But actually, this spice is hidden in something else. Dr. Curcumin. Tell us about curcumin.
Curcumin is like the king of the spices. And this is something you should be using every single week.
Yes.
It's actually the most researched spice of all of them because it's a fantastic spice. I met him for the first time, the plant, when I went to Zanzibar. And curcumin, one of the properties that it has is that it's one of the most powerful antioxidants that you can take. Things that we do create oxidation in our body. For example, if you're not sleeping enough, for example, the fact that you're drinking coffee, very oxidative, makes you age faster. But not only is antioxidant, it's also anti-cancer. This has been very well published. Somebody that is facing cancer needs to be taking curcumin. I would go even further, every single day. And not only that, it has even been published that people that take curcumin and take their chemotherapy, the chemotherapy works even better. So it's what is called chemosensitizer, makes the chemotherapy work much better. It's also very antibacterial, what we're talking about, why it's used in these warm places. Now, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Many times, curcumin is mixed with black pepper. Black pepper is a spice you shouldn't use, okay? Because it's very irritating and you cause inflammation. Now, there's some studies that suggest that putting it together actually increases its effectiveness, but the problem is that you're creating inflammation at the same time. So watch out, black pepper is a spice you don't want in your home. And also anything that has a lot of MSG also is something that you don't want in your home. I'm telling you the reality, and be, wise on the choices that you take.
So when you go to buy, make sure you read the label and you see, does it have MSG?
That's right.
If it has MSG, you don't need it. But if it has curcumin, then yes,
That's
you
right.
actually need to buy that. Let's go to our live audience and hear what spice or what question do you have. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Doc. My name is Dan Kalmax Okendo. I have two questions. One, we have these different types of spices, and for me, I like them so much. What are the effects of these manufactured spices as opposed to the natural ones?
Right.
And question number two is, I see most of people like chewing them raw before they are cooked, and some people like them cooked. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's actually two very important questions. So number one, what about if it comes to the hands of the manufacturer and they dry the spice and so forth? It still remains, it still keeps a lot of the properties. Okay, that's one of the advantages of the spices, that we're able to dry them and keep them. Now, there's a certain time, don't keep them too long, because too long time will lose its effectiveness and so forth. But the problem is it's not the drying part. The problem is when they start adding things. So if they're adding a lot of MSG, then you start getting in trouble, So that's why, read the labels and see if it has MSG or monosodium glutamate. It's not the best one. Try to find another one. So yeah, that's your number one question. Your second question, what about if you chew the spice? As long as you do it near the time that you are eating, you are completely fine. And also make sure that the leaf or whatever you're chewing is completely washed correctly, so you don't introduce certain problems. So yes, it's okay to chew it at the time that you are eating. Don't do this when you have an empty stomach, because then you can irritate your stomach and so forth. When it's mixed together with the food, it works much better.
Good. Thank you for that. Could we have our next question?
Thank you, Dr. Eddie. I'm Florence Gichao. My question is there any problem mixing many spices in a certain meal? For example, here you can mix ginger, turmeric, cinnamon. Sometimes you mix all of them. Is it hazardous to our health? And also the other question is, can spices cause food poison?
Good question. That's actually a really good question. So first question, what about if we mix them together? Is there any problem with that? No. As long as they're not becoming more spicy, more irritating, that's completely fine. And we see as this, the research coming out of India. Indians don't tend to use one spice at a time, but rather it's a combination of many spices. It's what every household does there. It's called the garam salama.
Yes, garam.
Garam.
Masala.
It's masala. Excuse me. It's that combination, of multiple spices, and it actually has a synergetic effect. As you mix them, it actually becomes better. But just follow that principle. If that is spicy, be careful. May not be the best one. Identify which is the one that is making it spicy. Try to eliminate or decrease it dramatically. And then to your second question, can you use, too much spices? Well, not necessarily. You not necessarily can use too much spices. As long, again, as the principle is that it's not too spicy, then you should be fine.
Thank you for that. Let's have our third question.
Thank you, Dr. Eddie. My name is Ruth Miorotirop. I have a question. Is it advisable to give spices to our children?
Good question. And the answer is yes. And in fact, as I mentioned to you, they're a good guideline, you know. So we know, you know,
Yes.
how spicy it is. Just be careful, you know. The first months, you do not give spices to your child, you know. Breast milk is the best food for that child. So we're talking about once they start growing up, you know, once they reach the 1-year-old mark and so forth, you know, you can start introducing a little bit at a time. You know, don't overwhelm the system, you know, with all these spices and things. Sometimes, you know, if they have a bad experience with something too spicy, something that was healthy, they may get the wrong meaning and say, oh, from now on I'm not going to eat sweet potatoes, you know, because they were too spicy. And yeah, we don't want that, you know, to make them start getting, you know, bad meaning towards healthy things. So yeah, you can do it, you know, carefully, little by little, and they'll start getting used to, you know, the type of food that you have at home. And in fact, you actually start making good meaning, you know, and that's why the food at home always tastes really good, you know. Children grow up and leave, and then when they come back and they taste, you know, that special seasoning that we use at home, it has good meaning for them. So yes, you know, that will be a wise choice.
Great. Maybe before I take you back a little bit, Doctor, on another spice that's very common,
Yes.
cinnamon, I would just like to let the viewers at home know, you know, curcumin, which is turmeric, we find it all over in this country, and it's really one that you'd easily find and use at home. You can tell us a little more about cinnamon.
Yes, cinnamon. You know, I saw that spice there. It's the outside of the tree that
Yes,
they
the
that they
bark.
take. So cinnamon is a fantastic spice. Be careful. Don't take too much of this, because too much tends to be
Harsh.
irritating. That's right. So just a little bit, just to give the flavor. But it has been published so much about this spice also. It has anti-inflammatory, as you can see in the screen, is antimicrobial, is antioxidant. It helps prevent the growth of tumors. It helps with the cardiovascular system, because it has been published that it decreases cholesterol. It actually stimulates your immunity. And finally is what is called insulin mimetic. In other words, it has the ability to lower blood sugar. So this is a spice that somebody, you know, with diabetes would benefit from that, as it has that effect of lowering the blood sugar.
Wow. Maybe one other one.
Sure.
Cardamom.
Yes.
Cardamom, we use it a lot in mandazi. You know,
Okay.
we like to make mandazi here. But also in our teas. Some people use it to spice their tea.
That's right.
What are the benefits of cardamom? Perhaps as our last spice.
We can see that on the screen, and the active ingredient is actually the cardamomin, it's called. And this one is very interesting. They were doing chemotherapy. So when the patient was taking some of this cardamom before it was taking the chemotherapy was actually much more sensitive, because cardamom is naturally affecting the receptors in our body that deal with cancer. So it stimulates the cancer cells to commit suicide. So yes, definitely a good idea to be taking, you know, some of this tea. Definitely has some very beneficial properties.
And a question that will be very common among the old people. If you've not taken spices much of your life, and now you are 60 or 70, what would you have to say to these elderly people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would encourage them to try some of these spices, but try the ones that are not irritating, especially the elderly people. You know, we need to take care of them. And as you get older, the risk of cancer increases as the cells grow older. Therefore, it's a good idea, specifically, curcumin, turmeric would be a very wise choice if you are not taking this on a regular basis. Go to the internet and find some recipes. If you don't know how to use this, there's so many different ways of using it, and incorporate some of these recipes to your daily foods, as it will bring all these anti-cancer protective effects.
So it doesn't matter whether you're young or old.
That's right.
You need to be in this club of spices. And the spices are very beneficial to all of us. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add on spices?
Yeah. So just remember that principle, Remember that when you are doing this food, I know some of you, audience, are trying to, make these changes, towards a positive, healthy lifestyle. I just want to remind you that usually the things that are not healthy are addictive. So for example, if somebody's used to eating meat and you stop eating meat, I can tell you the first few days you don't feel good. It's just like a smoker that stops smoking. Go and talk to them. Ask them how good they feel. They don't feel good because they're breaking that addiction. So hang on, usually that effect lasts about 7 to 10 days. And then you will be going uphill. So as you're going into that transition, make sure that you are making your dishes palatable. If you are struggling with an addiction, such as smoking, be careful. Foods that are spicy tend to call for the nicotine. So somebody that is struggling with smoking addiction, well, he will be definitely cut off anything that is irritating. Doesn't mean you cannot use spices, but don't use irritating spices, especially those people as they're trying to overcome that addiction.
That's good advice for anybody who's trying to overcome smoking. Don't make them spicy. They should be, at least you can use the herbs, and there are many herbs that you can use, and the non-irritating spices. We've come to the end of this part of the segment, and when we get to the kitchen, we are going to make a healthy spice. We're going to make chicken seasoning. So you'd like to sit there and know how to make it at home, and so you can have healthy spices, and you really don't have to go to the shop, to buy. You can actually do it in your kitchen, so don't go away. We're in the kitchen and we are ready for another recipe. And today we have Esther, and Esther is going to take us through some Mexican dish. It's called what? Mexican soup with kale. Kales that we do all the time is sukuma wiki. So we're going to make Mexican soup, and we are going to mix with our sukuma wiki or kales. You can see the way they are not finely chopped, not the way we are used to. So I'm really looking forward to this recipe, Esther. Take it away.
Okay, so this is a simple soup, but we're going to add kale. Kale is full of nutrients. It has quercetin, which is anti-inflammatory, so it's really good, and it's full of antioxidants, vitamin C, and it can prevent cancer even. So kale is, we call it the king of greens. So it's rich in nutrients.
Not poor man's food. Here it's considered when you're eating it, it's when you're really
No,
poor, you can't afford anything else.
No, this is really, really good.
All right,
So we're
so-
gonna turn this one on and cook the kale a little bit because it's very hard when it's raw. So we
Yes.
need to make sure it's soft.
Okay, so let me turn it on for you.
And we're gonna need a spoon to. So I'm gonna add now. This is two.
Okay.
So we're gonna add the kale. Thank you. Here, and it looks like it's a lot, but it's gonna shrink once it's gonna lose the water. So I'm gonna add a little olive oil and the liquid aminos.
So we are using olive oil,
Yes. And it's optional. You can just use water.
which is about a tablespoon.
Just 1 tablespoon.
Okay, so not too much.
And we're gonna add the liquid aminos.
Would you like to explain what is aminos? Somebody could be joining us today for the first time and they don't know what is this aminos.
So it gives a little salty flavor. It's made out of the soybean. And the aminos, it's a substitute for the soy sauce. Soy sauce has more sodium.
This is a common appearance in Mexican dishes, right?
Yes, we use it for flavor, but if you have high blood pressure, it's good to avoid it because it is high in sodium.
All right.
Okay, but it's gonna add a nice flavor, and I'm gonna add a little water. Okay, so we're gonna add a little salt and garlic.
Okay. The garlic, would you use it as a powder? Or would
Yes, you
use
can
the whole
crush. You can crush or you can use it as a powder.
one? Okay.
Right. And I'm gonna spare a little for the soup. So we'll use more later. And just so it can absorb a little flavor from the salt. And then I'm gonna start cooking my soup. So the soup I'm using is semolina.
Yes.
This one is actually Italian. I pre-cooked, so it's faster for our demonstration. So can we turn on this one?
Yes.
Or we could wait for... Okay. So I'm gonna add water and tomato. And it's good to use the real tomato instead of the canned tomato.
So this one was blended earlier. How many tomatoes are these?
This is 4 ripe tomatoes. It's Roma tomatoes. You call them Roma?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna add the tomato sauce and it's gonna start.
So is there any special way in which you prepare the semolina?
Yeah, so I like to toast it a little bit first so it won't get sticky.
Yes.
So that's a little secret.
And when you toast, how long would you do it? How long does it take? So that, because most of the time when many people prepare it, it becomes very sticky and it
yeah,
comes together.
just like 5 minutes and you
Yes.
need to be mixing it constantly or it's gonna burn.
Uh-huh.
And I like to put a little garlic because the toasted garlic gives a special flavor too.
So you toast with garlic and put it in the pan and a little oil and that's it.
This is not on.
So let me turn it on. Tell our gas is leaking then. Okay, now it's on.
Okay. All right, so maybe I'll switch it here. Can we switch it here?
Good.
And then I'll just add this. So this one is not completely soft, but once you add it to the soup, it's gonna cook. So you're gonna add you cook your soup for about 10 minutes. Once it's soft, then you're gonna start adding your kale and your beans and vegetables.
All right.
So we have more seasoning, so let's add the seasonings.
So what is this we're adding?
We have onion powder,
Yes, and we earlier added garlic powder.
and let's add the rest of the garlic powder.
If someone doesn't want to add onion powder or maybe garlic powder, can they just crush
It
the
can
onion?
be, yes.
fresh onion?
So if it's fresh, it's better. That's right. So let's do the carrots because
Okay.
you can have frozen carrots, or I usually This was leftover from another dish, but I usually have diced carrots. But this is okay too. It's gonna add nice flavor and color. So we're gonna add carrots and peas. And you know the peas is a legume that is one of the best legumes because it's rich in protein and it has less fat.
Yes.
It's rich in fiber and protein, so it's really good. So we're gonna add peas. Okay, and you know what? I know I'm missing.
Yes.
My daughter calls the magic powder.
And it is
The
this.
chicken seasoning.
Yes.
It's no chicken. There's no chicken fat. It's low in sodium. So it's a mix of different herbs, and it gives a nice flavor to the soups.
And we prepared this in our earlier recipes. So if someone needs to know how to prepare it, they can actually
We can.
go to our, you know, where we have stored them, and you will find them. Okay, so how much of this do you need?
So I think we'll use 2 teaspoons.
2 teaspoons. So,
We'll see.
okay. So here is the first
1.
teaspoon of the magic seasoning,
Mm-hmm.
and we go in the second teaspoon.
And see, your turmeric is
Yes.
very strong. I can smell it. So
Oh,
if,
you can smell it in the
if I would
seasoning
make
already?
this one again, I would use less turmeric. This is the turmeric and the celery are very strong flavors.
Yes.
So now we're gonna add our beans. And
So how did you prepare the beans?
so the beans, you just pre-cook the beans, and you can add black beans or any beans. The kidney beans are very good in antioxidants.
Yes.
Kidney beans or black beans, and you can add just we call it pasta and fagioli. So beans and pasta,
Beans and pasta.
and then add just let it boil so it will get all the flavors. You can cover it, and this is almost done because we pre-cooked the pasta.
Yes.
So it's a good dish. We went on a trip with 80 students, and in the morning I would make this for them, and they were not hungry during the morning. They had a lot of energy, and they were not hungry because the beans add a lot of fiber and protein, and then you're not hungry.
So it's something you can actually have easily in the morning
Yes.
as a breakfast dish, or
Yes.
and it
Or
will
at
keep
lunch.
you, or at lunch. Wow. If I don't have the semolina, what else can I put in place of that, or use maybe?
Well, it could be just beans and add the vegetables. This one we use as a soup. Mexicans eat this soup a lot. Semolina or durum wheat soup. We have the little shells.
Yes.
We have the alphabet. We have little, and because it's inexpensive, people who they don't have a lot of money, it's a very common Mexican,
soup.
yes. But then they add the good of the greens and
Yes.
the
So to enrich it and to actually make sure
Yes.
that it's packed with
Yes.
nutrients.
yes.
It's easy to prepare. Here locally, we actually prepare it more. We will take the semolina and mix it maybe with rice, or maybe on its own plate.
Yeah, you can make a
You know,
salad.
Yes. So I'm liking this new variation
Yes.
on how we can try this at home.
This is a soup, and you
Wow.
can add any vegetables that you like.
Yes.
Actually, maybe more kale. This is good. So the kale should be very soft, because if it's hard, and the kale can be the fiber, it's very high in fiber. So
Yeah.
just let it cook, and once it boils, maybe we can try it. So it's almost there. I would say it's almost ready. I don't know if we would need more tomato. It depends. You need to choose the ripe tomatoes, that to make sure it's a strong. It's a the rich tomato flavor.
Yes.
So let's try it and see. We have a
Do I give you a ladle?
yeah. This is perfect. So it's gonna be hot.
Yes.
So let's
I
try
like the
it.
color. It's really colorful.
It's very yummy. Very delicious.
Wow.
Okay. So let's see what you think.
Okay.
Let's try it. I don't
Do
know.
you want to be part of this? So, at home, You need to know what we are
They
enjoying
can-
here
it's-
with Esther.
It's quick. It's not. It doesn't take a lot of time to make. And when it's warm, like right now, your weather is a little cold.
Yes.
A soup
And you
is
can
really
use
nice.
this as a soup.
Now we Mexicans eat it with a little lemon.
So you'd squeeze it in
Yes.
the lemon. You
We use
in
lemon a
Mexican
lot.
dishes you use lemon a
A
lot,
lot,
just like the chicken
Yes.
seasoning. Okay. Okay, so let's try this.
Yes, maybe I would add a little more tomato. You like
I
it?
like it. Yeah, it's nice. I like this flavor that it's not too strong. I can taste almost everything in here. Very nice.
Yeah, it needs to boil more so it can take the flavor.
Very yummy.
Very yummy,
Thank
right?
you, Esther. This is really yummy. I can actually also taste the garlic.
Yes.
You're welcome to be part of this exciting journey of walking through the Mexican foods with Esther. And you can also try them at home. If you want to know the exact measurements of what we did, the duration of preparation, check in our website, www.lishaleo.com, and you'll find the recipes there. And you can follow all the previous episodes on Hope Channel YouTube, where they have stored them. And you will be so happy to be part of this journey. We are so happy that you always join us here. And Esther, thank you for always being part of this exciting journey.
You're welcome.
We want to learn from you, and this is really yummy. So let me finish my food. Until next time, goodbye from us.